Carrie's Kitchen. I'm Carrie. This is my kitchen. Today we're gonna do shrimp tostadas. It's one of my family's favorites and it's just what we're craving this weekend, so I'm gonna share it with you. We went to a fantastic local seafood market that all the restaurants get their seafood from today and picked out some fantastic wild-caught Gulf shrimp that we are going to devein and deshell and make a fantastic topping for some black bean tostadas. So join me as we make some delicious Southwestern food. Started on these shrimp. These are beautiful Gulf shrimp, wild caught, and I have the bag of shrimp that they came in. They came from a really good seafood place. Your seafood monger, if you go to a good reputable one, they're going to send you your stuff home on ice or on an ice pack. If you go to the same place regularly, you can bring the ice pack that they gave you and kind of reuse it. It's a good idea. And then they'll just put it in a plastic bag in with your fish, so on the way home it stays totally cold and fresh. We've got these gorgeous fish. They're a 16-20 count, and we're going to deshell and devein them. I like to keep the bag in the right side of the sink, and then I have a colander or a strainer in this side of the sink. So as I devein the fish, I'm going to put the cleaned fish on this side, and then we're going to run some really cold water over them to make sure that all the gunk is off and they're really clean before we marinate them. So the first thing I like to do is, you see these little legs? There's a couple different ways you can go about it. You've got the legs here, and I like to do it over my bag, and you just grab the legs and pull them right off, see? And then I take my thumb right where the tail and the body meet, and sort of knead it down like this. I kind of spread it open, and it comes right off, see? Drop that in my bag, and pull this tail off. Because if I do that, the other part first, I'm going to have more shrimp. I minimize my risk of tearing. So now I'm going to take this, and I'm going to start my knife. See the little vein in there? See that little mud vein? What we're going to do is we're going to take my knife, and I'm going to slide down the back of the shrimp, and then I'm going to grab the vein and pull it out. Done. That goes in my clean side. So I'm just going to do that to all of these. You start at the head side because the legs sort of go this way. Grab them like this with your knife and pull. They all come off. Put it in your little bag, thumb away from the knife. Then you take this right here where the tail meets the body, pull it with your thumb off. Look, it comes off like a nice, neat little shell. Grab at the tip of the tail and firmly grab the body, and out it comes. So then you get all the meat that's in that tail. Turn it this way. See that vein? Start here. Ooh. Grab the vein and pull it out. So there's something to be said for getting wild Gulf shrimp. It doesn't have to be Gulf, but to get wild shrimp, wild caught shrimp, they're all going to be a little bit different in color and in texture and whatever, but it's a much better quality. It is worth taking the time to do this. It is so worth it. Your meal's going to taste like you went to a restaurant. So you don't cook this on a Wednesday because you don't have time because you work full time. Cook it on Saturday. Prep the shrimp one day ahead of time and let it marinate. As long as your refrigerator's set on a really cold setting, that'll work just fine. Now, when you're buying, first of all, I'm going to take this. See, all of my shrimp trash is now in the bag it came in. There's a couple little legs that miss. I'm going to put them in, and I'm going to squeeze the air out and tie the top. So when I put this in my trash isn't going to smell nearly as stinky as it could had I just thrown these all loosely into the sink and scooped them up and put them in the trash. So now, I'm not using my fingers because I've been using them to cut shrimp. I'm going like this. Right? You like that? I got skills. So now, you take your shrimp and you're going to use really cold water and rinse them. Now your shrimp should smell like shrimp. They should smell like the ocean. They should not smell like ammonia. If they smell like ammonia, they're old, they've been soaking in chemicals too long, they're starting to degrade. So you want good, healthy, nice shrimp. I'm rinsing them off in some cold water to make sure all that gunk is off of them in my colander, my strainer. And I'm just gonna let that completely drain. And then we're gonna start a marinade. I like to let my shrimp marinate for a little while in the seasonings and some olive oil. And then later when I go to cook it, the flavor is really soaked into the meat. So I like to use 3 cloves of garlic. I have used the amount I usually buy of shrimp. This is how I buy 2 giant handfuls. I say, go grab 2 big handfuls. How much would you like, ma'am? I don't even go by the pound. I'm so terrible. I say 2 big handfuls, and it's usually about 1.5 pounds, okay, of shrimp. Today it was 1.51, so it's almost exactly 1.5 pounds every time I say grab 2 big handfuls. Sometimes it seems to be between 1.34 and 1.5, 2 handfuls, which is a perfect amount, especially when it's not the main dish. It is something we're putting on top of our tostadas. Now, this meal that I'm making, goodness, dropping things. This meal that I'm making today can be made exactly the same way without the shrimp, but I think it's really important to know how to prepare shrimp and what to look for with shrimp. And we'll talk more about the shrimp in a minute. Right now, garlic. I'm going to use 3 cloves of garlic, and I'm just going to, you know the trick, lay it on its side, smash it, and peel it, right? I'm going to do that with 3 of them. 1, 2. Hit that one a little hard. It kind of got smashed. That was a perfect one. All right, so there it is. So we'll take those together. And I like to go down the middle a little bit of the 2 that were whole. I'm just going to chop it up. I want it fairly finely diced for this because I want the sharpness of the garlic to absorb into the shrimp. This marinade is so simple, but so flavor-packed. There's something about the garlic and cumin. Okay, so here's the deal. I take a Ziploc bag, turn it wrong side out, like this. So then as you're putting stuff in, even if stuff gets kind of messy on the lip, it's not actually on the lip of the bag, so you're not going to cross-contaminate in your refrigerator. It's very important. So I have this here, right? And I'm making a bowl basically out of my bag. And I'm going to take some extra virgin olive oil. And I'm going to put quite a bit. I say I'm probably putting about, I don't know, maybe half a cup of olive oil. A little bit of salt. Not as much salt as I'm going to cook with, just a little bit. A little cracked pepper. The reason I don't want to put too much salt in is salt can dry out meat or fish. It sort of absorbs the moisture from anything. But a little bit of salt can go a long way when I'm going to marinate it for a very short time. If I were marinating this overnight, let's say, I would put 0 salt in it and just salt when I'm cooking. I'm only going to marinate this for about, I don't know, an hour, half an hour to an hour. So to say, you know, a little pinch of salt is good. It's going to coat my fish. And then I'm going to add some cumin. I would say I'm probably adding about a teaspoon of cumin. Nothing crazy, but enough. Now I'm going to take my shrimp that is rinsed and drained and ice cold and deveined and put it in here. Along with the garlic. Which is here. Now I'm not going to use this cutting board for anything else because it's been worked in cahoots with some shrimp. So I'm just gonna keep it totally separate. I'm gonna take this, before really sealing it up, I want to seal it enough, but with some air, that I can kind of incorporate all this together. I don't want to damage the meat at all, but I want to sort of make sure every shrimp has a little bit of every marinade ingredient on it. So we're just gonna kind of go like this while it still has some air. So every shrimp is touching some garlic and some cumin and some olive oil and some salt and pepper. And if you look, see, it all is. Right? So now I'm gonna crack open a corner, push the air out, and roll it up. Et voila. Now I'm gonna put it in my refrigerator, wrapped in a tea towel. Hey, Sadie girl. I'm going to take one of my tea towels and I'm going to wrap it up so that it stays, just in case there were some sort of a leak. I want to be sure that it is self-contained and we don't have any cross-contamination risk with raw fish. So now I'm going to move on to making my pico de gallo and guacamole to top our tostadas. Delicious. So now I've taken a can of black beans. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to cook them down. I'm starting with a can. I drained a little bit of the water off the top, and then I'm putting it into a fairly hot pot with a little bit of olive oil, and then I'm going to take a pinch more salt and put it on top. So we're going to let that sort of simmer. I've got it on a medium to medium high heat until I start seeing a little bubbling. Then I'm going to put a lid on it and reduce it to medium low to low heat with a lid and let it hang out while I make my tostada shells. I've got my oven preheating at 375, and that's how we're going to cook our tostada shells. We're not going to fry them. We're going to bake them, and it's fantastic. They're just as crispy and crunchy. It's like toasting bread. All right, so we've had these in here for 10 minutes on one side. I flipped them over, and now they're a nice golden brown for about 2 more minutes. I'm always naughty. I grab these with my hand, and I should probably use an instrument for. But I have nice, golden, crispy tostada shells. And I'm going to do another round. We're going to do one more round of tostada shells, and then we'll have plenty for everybody, and then leftovers for tomorrow to dip in some guacamole at leftovers as well. All right, so now it's time for my shrimp. It's been marinating, and it's going to be fantastic. So I've got my pan set on a nice medium-high heat, and it's plenty hot. I didn't put any oil in it because, remember, my shrimp is marinating in oil and cumin and garlic. So I'm literally gonna dump this in the pan. It's gonna be delicious. So I grab one corner and I kind of pour it out like this. There it goes. All right. Into my trash it goes. Oh, I wish you could smell it. So good. All right, so with shrimp, the trick is, the reason I do this very, very last is shrimp takes no time to cook. It takes 3 minutes. With this, the pan's a little crowded, so maybe 5 at the top. Just kind of get a minute and a half on each side of all the shrimp. Saute it around. As soon as it starts to kind of curl up and look pink and a little translucent, you're done. You take it off, and that's when you're going to eat it. Done. You gotta love Marley. Alright, so look at these shrimps. They're gorgeous. They are ready. Take a look at these beautiful shrimp. They're just curled up enough. The muscle said, hello, I'm alive. It's just tense enough, but it's not rubber. No one's gonna have a rubbery shrimp tostada. All right, so let's move it to the table. I'm gonna put it in here with a little lid so it stays warm, and I'll show you the presentation. And dinner is served. How to make the perfect tostada, you ask? So you start with just one little spoonful of our organic refried beans, then some Mexican shredded cheese, and then a dollop of guacamole. Just a little dollop sort of in the middle, spread it out. Then, the first tostada, my husband and I like to start with 1 to 3 shrimp, and then after that we usually go back down to 1 shrimp a tostada. But the first one, I think you should start with at least 2. Pico de gallo. Oh, so beautiful. I like a lot of pico de gallo because it's so fresh. Look at that. You could eat it just like this, but I think there is something to be said for adding a nice dollop of sour cream to cool the palate, and just with certain bites. And then, of course, our favorite, tapatio. Just a few dashes of that around. And you have the perfect shrimp tostada.